Thanks to our sponsors, Dillon Tire, Anderson Brothers Bank, and then the City of Dillon Golf Course and Wellness Center.
Is it week 8 they come out normally?
I'm going to say one more thing about the Tennessee-Alabama game. And it really got me tickled.
Just save it to the end.
Yep.
Save
We'll
it to the
recap
end.
it at the end.
I got to make a
Recap
note.
it at the end.
Okay, stick around because he's got a hot take here. Last week you guys didn't do too well in your picks. I was 4 out of 5.
You literally got one more pick right than I did. One.
Yeah, but percentage-wise, you were 50%. I was 80%.
It's going to take you a few games. Like Steven's very adamant on throwing the ball deep.
No, I'm not.
But
I like the wording here, Kyle.
28-21 victory for
Lackluster performance.
Lackluster.
I like that.
But it's true, they didn't even score in the second half.
Coastal will take on Old Dominion this week, another kind of lowly opponent. It's not the trucking company. No.
Old Dominion.
Which you probably could have used Old Dominion this past week for us to put all your stuff on that we had to move out an entire house in 5 hours.
We should
have had this camera over here, extreme home move out. So
I still
I'm gonna
think
give
we
them
should.
the victory.
I think we should still spend more time talking about South Carolina in this segment.
Just for Landry on his wedding week.
Compared to Clemson.
His head's going to explode, boys.
And I'm going to just keep whispering in his ear, whether it's true or not. Touchdown, Florida State. Out on the first dance.
Don't do that to that man on his wedding day.
Nose in the upset.
I'm going with Florida State too.
Nose in the upset.
I'm going with
So
Florida
y'all
State.
take.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to Cover 4.
We can lie about the Gamecocks right now, baby.
We on air.
It's that culture.
Welcome to Cover 4. We're down a man. Before we say that, not associated with two guys.
No, we're not. We're not here for two guys.
I think they've learned that by now.
We're going to reiterate every single week. Let them know.
Because in the group text, you and Landry reiterated that this was not associated with two guys.
Yeah, but that was the first week. That was the first week.
Well, we learned our lesson from the start.
What about local taste?
Yeah, not associated with that as well. And we also reiterate on two guys every week that show, not associated with this.
Not associated with us.
Same sport, different show.
More content on this show.
We are down a man. He's getting married this week. He had a lot to take care of.
So he's going to be off probably for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So it's just going to be the three amigos.
So we're calling audible. We're going back to Cover 3. We've done Cover 2.
Yep.
Now we're going to Cover 3.
Yep.
Last week.
This might be a better defense. You never know. People might like Cover 3 better than Cover 4.
We're going to find out. Last week you guys didn't do too well in your picks. I was 4 out of 5.
You literally got one more pick right than I did. One.
Yeah, but percentage-wise, you were 50%. I was 80%. I was 4 out of 5. Kyle went 2 of 5. Jordan 3 of 6. Landry, the guy that ain't here, I wouldn't show up if I was 40% on the week either. 4 out of 10.
I think he picked just about anything you could pick.
And since
hold on. What you literally just said, I wouldn't show up if I went 40%. And Kyle was sitting next to you in 2 of 5. That is 40%.
You went 40%. So
I don't trust
know,
this.
you know.
We don't have any calculators. Like, are we positive
Do you
on
really
these figures?
need calculators for that?
You never know.
20, 40, 60, 80, 1.
Good job.
2, 40.
I'm talking about Owen Stevens picks.
All right.
yeah, I was
It's
4 out of
the
5.
same thing, Kyle. Just add 2 more. If you got 40% at 2 right, then he's got 80% right at 4 right.
I don't trust it.
Whew.
I do not trust it.
He went to
Do
Dillon
not
High
trust
School.
it.
All right.
Before we jump into our recap this week, we want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Dillon Tire. I literally just left there. Had to get new tires,
There's some good people up there.
new oil,
Mhm.
new windshield wipers, and detail.
Right.
There was a motor and a transmission away from completely
Yeah, you
rebuilding
about
my
bought a new car there.
But
Yep.
I think we need to dig a little bit deeper in that, because not just is he there for all of that, like he's a really good person. You're doing business with a great person. He's got a broke foot right now. You know what he did last Saturday?
Helped you move
Helped me
because
move.
you had 10 days notice and didn't move a piece of paper.
Doesn't matter. He was there. He
Yeah.
showed up. He helped. Broke foot, hobbled around. Like nothing was
It's hard to
gonna
find
happen.
people like that.
It's hard to
Sure
It's
find.
hard to
is.
find
So,
people like that.
Shout out to Dillon Tire. Make sure you go there for all your car needs. New
Car,
tires,
truck, accessory,
big truck,
anything you need.
Chevy Cobalt?
maybe even
He'll get your Chevy Cobalt right. Take it up there to him.
That's like
yeah,
a
had to
rock.
tow it up there.
No, it'll go. It might not go much farther, but it'll get there.
Trust me, it'll get there.
All right, let's jump in. Landry's not here to complain, so we're going to spend some time on the biggest win of the week.
How about them Gamecocks?
South Carolina goes into Lexington. walk out
Upset
with
City.
a 24-14 victory.
That culture. It's that culture.
I don't think that score is actually reflective of the way that game. I think from the coin
agree.
toss, Carolina controlled that game from start to finish, and that's not something typical you see with Gamecock offense or defense.
Yeah. It started off with a bang. Kentucky tries to run a reverse. They blow it up.
Tonkin Henry way, fumble recovery.
Touchdown, and that set the tone.
Right.
Anytime you can get a big play at the very beginning of the game, that set the tone.
But like the Gamecocks of the past, they never turned back. They never let up and they never stopped. They held strong for 4 quarters.
But I think this also, and I think I brought this up last week, it kind of speaks to Kentucky. It's like they are always consistent, but like when they don't have a legit playmaker on their offense, they struggle. I mean, their defense wasn't very good either.
Right, but I hear what you're saying, but I'm not saying that I like the point for the simple fact of Kentucky, if they're supposed to be the number 12, number 13 team in the nation, they should have enough talent and enough coaching to not let that hinder
But
them.
do they? I think they were very
Maybe they're exposed now.
like they weren't. They were not
2 weeks in
ranked
a
where
row.
they should be. They were not a top 13, top 10 team. Now they dropped all the way to 22.
Well, for South Carolina State's sake, they were a top 15 team.
I mean, if you want to say that.
Yeah, but it kind of goes back to last year where it's like this was a game nobody predicted us to win.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The Gamecocks have one of those every single year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now,
2 last year.
Now, what do we do after this point, or what do the Gamecocks do after this point to ensure that it just doesn't tank and we go and lose 3 of the next 5 or something like that?
And luckily, like we'll talk about this later in the show. We got a bye week this week. Rest up, get healthy for Texas A&M the next week.
Yeah. Marshawn Lloyd continues doing what he's been doing since about game 4. He had not a huge game 1, but he was just kind of getting his foot, and then of course taking on Arkansas and Georgia. But after that, he's been on a roll and continues doing what he's doing. Rattler is he's gone from a gunslinger to game manager, and you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, we don't need him to be what he was. In my opinion, we don't need him to be what he was at Oklahoma, where he's throwing it 50 times a game and needing him to throw 6 touchdowns. Like, it's a little bit different.
It would be nice to see.
It would be nice, but like I said, I would much rather it be manageable and not like sticking out to you and him trying to do too much and costing us a game sometimes.
Rattler has become more comfortable over the last few games, and I think that in part that comes from success running the football. And the last few weeks, I've been more impressed with the O-line play.
Yeah.
Yes.
Had a SEC lineman of the week, Javon Gwynn.
I've been more impressed with, and the stats, they're skewed because in the first 4 games of the year, South Carolina, Spencer Rattler had more time to throw than any other quarterback in the SEC. But that also takes into account that he was having to roll out. He was scrambling.
Yeah.
But I think that the line is coming to themselves. Spencer Rattler he's developing as a player. He's developing in the offense.
Yeah.
And I really like what could come down the road for the Gamecocks.
And maybe Satterfield's getting more comfortable with him being the quarterback. You know,
Still
getting
ain't
used
sold
to.
on Satterfield.
I'm still
I'm
not sold on him either.
But his play calling the last 3 weeks, I will say, has been better. I think that
he's got a new, like, he inherited a whole new basically offensive system with different players that are playmakers. You look at our top, 2 offensive players, Spencer and Juice Wells.
Yeah.
Both were not on the team last year, and again, you're banking on your offensive line being there, but at the same time, it's going to take you a few games. Like Steven's very adamant on throwing the ball deep.
No, I'm not.
But I think he's getting more comfortable in knowing what he has to call and scheme around what players we have, and you can see he's getting our playmakers involved. They may not have 8-9 catches, but these big plays are going to the playmakers, and they're making them.
One thing I don't like about the point you made, Stephen, is you said you've liked his game calling over the past 3 games. 2 of those games was UNC Charlotte and South Carolina State.
Yeah.
Throw those out.
Well, you can't throw them out.
Start
Start
at the Kentucky game, and let's see if it continues to build in the SEC against decent competition for
You said you weren't sold on him, and I said, I agree, I'm not sold on him either, but his play calling has been better the past 3 games. He's built
He's had
a foundation of
he's
good
had
play
better
calling.
athletes.
I thought he had. I thought he caught a
leagues.
good game against Arkansas.
Yeah, the Arkansas game wasn't bad. Our defense really let us down in that game.
Couldn't stop the run.
We didn't
They
give
just
up
pushed.
like 500 yards rushing that game.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The
we
defense
tend to
is
not
awful.
do well off on defensive rushing when we go to Arkansas.
That was it was a big win to go into Lexington. It was somebody that you ain't beat in years, and you come out with a big victory.
And
top
a block
15
punt.
team.
Leading the country in block punts. 5.
Yep. You look good on.
Listen, when you're not, sorry to interrupt you, but like when you don't have a loaded roster like a Georgia has or a Tennessee or Alabama, you got to find creative ways to do it, and sometimes that may be forcing turnovers on defense, fake punts, block punts, onside kicks.
You got to win all three phases.
We're finding creative ways.
A special teams win can change the dynamic of a football game because instead of them punting it down and you starting at your 20, you block a punt, you start at their 20 or their 30.
Or you run it in.
You're not always going to do that every time.
Yeah.
No.
And also the first play of the game was a fumble. And we got the ball inside, the 5-yard line.
I think we looked good on all three phases of the game, offense, defense, and which we did give up a lot of rushing yards.
The last defense or the last touchdown for Kentucky, we played pretty conservatively.
Right, that's why, like Jordan said,
on
that
the coverage.
24-14, that's not really how the game went.
No.
It could have easily been 24-7 or,
But it wasn't. It was 24-14.
Right. But I think that was a big victory to go on the road, win a game like that against what was a top 15 opponent. Then you get a bye week to improve on that, rest up, and then get a night game against Texas A&M, who will,
hurt at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Rumors say that they're going to be on quarterback 3.
Yeah, we'll get into that later in the show. And again, a lot of people making excuses for Kentucky, stating, and we alluded to this earlier, down their quarterback, down a couple other offensive and defensive starters. But at the end of the day, like Jordan said, if you got a team that's ranked that high, you're supposed to win those games.
And you're supposed to be a powerhouse football team in the SEC. That excuse does not fare well.
But again, it's usually the same MO for Kentucky every season. It's like they find a workhorse they can just utilize, and it carries them the whole year. And then you're kind of like, is Will Levis a top quarterback? Is he not? But credit to our defense. I mean, outside, after that Arkansas-Georgia game, granted, like you said, we played South Carolina State and Charlotte. Defense has really stepped it up past month.
Yeah. Like I said,
sometimes
you just got to take that momentum and roll with it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Clemson, 31-3. I think this is kind of what everybody thought was going to happen here.
Yeah.
It's what everybody thought was going to happen. It was kind of what everybody knew was going to happen, but it's not what I wanted to believe was going to happen.
No, that over didn't hit.
Did not.
No,
it did not. Clemson covered the spread. They did cover the spread, but again, I think Clemson knew they'd have to have their A game to win this game.
Yeah.
Right.
Boston College, they're usually pretty decent. They're just not that good this year.
They're down.
And like I've said, Clemson is here, and the rest of the ACC is here. It's like
Well, like Landry said last week, they wrapped up the ACC last week.
With the win over NC State.
Of all the wild things that he says, that one might have been right.
I don't know. Like I'll give. I don't know. Like I think there's
Clemson's known to struggle one game a year.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to make before.
They have Syracuse this year.
They do.
Syracuse is in the top 25 now.
They have Syracuse in the Carrier Dome.
Yeah, they've got Florida State this weekend. They still got Notre Dame, which is Notre Dame kind of turning around. They did upset. I don't know if you can consider it an upset, but they did beat BYU this weekend.
Who's Notre Dame?
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling what Notre Dame's going to do.
Yeah,
ever.
but they play. I believe they're in South Bend this year.
But did Clemson already have that game with Wake Forest? They're one game a year where they
I think
what Jordan was
a good enough team.
I think what Jordan was.
You're talking about
to,
maybe
it's like Clemson,
maybe 25 or an unranked opponent that just takes them to the end.
Well, Clemson usually, and we're not just saying this because we're Gamecock fans, but it's true. Maybe not every season, but Clemson usually finds himself in a tougher game that shouldn't be a tough game for them.
Should not be. They always find themselves in a tough game that should not be a tough game for Clemson. And that's like,
is it this week?
They always do that, but they still have 11, 12 win seasons.
Yeah.
The Gamecocks turn around have 6-win seasons and beat one person they're not supposed to. So I mean, which side of the sword?
I would much rather struggle against a team.
Yeah, I would rather have the one struggle a year.
But hey, maybe
the Gamecocks aren't there right now, boys.
No,
they're not. They're not. Clemson is there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Clemson's supreme in the ACC until consistently they get knocked off.
They're still not getting enough love in the polls though, because they're still hanging around that 5-6 mark.
Yeah, I think they've pretty much flirted at 5.
Right.
Michigan, I think they're better than Michigan. I don't think Michigan's fourth best team in the country.
Ohio State.
Michigan also plays Penn State this weekend, number 4 versus number 10.
I look at it this
a lot
way.
of those polls
You've got Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Clemson, right? Ohio State and Michigan, they'll settle that.
Yeah.
Georgia and Alabama will settle that.
Yeah.
And if
Alabama's got Tennessee this weekend.
That's exactly where I was going. Yeah. If not, Tennessee's going to give us some answers.
And
Tennessee's what, 7?
And they're 8.
8.
They're playing in Knoxville this weekend too.
Hey,
and they're giving Tennessee points against Alabama.
Yeah,
like 7.5.
But I kind of view rankings kind of like how they do the college football playoff. Like, I don't think you get a real gauge on how good or like how ranked the team should be until like halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
Notre Dame, for example, they are in top 10.
A week or 2 away from the college football rankings, the playoff rankings.
So
is that week 8 they come out normally?
I'm going to say one more thing about the Tennessee Alabama game, and it really got me tickled.
Just save it to the end.
Yep. We're going to recap it at the end.
I got to make a note.
Okay. Stick around because he's got a hot take here. But a big win for Clemson. DJ continues to look good.
Yeah.
We came into this year. I was one of them that said, he tends to look bad, but this year he has consistently looked good. I don't think he's thrown but 1 interception all year. And that was his
would not have expected that this deep into the college football.
No,
but it's kind of like Clemson doesn't need DJ to be a Deshaun Watson or a Trevor Lawrence. Like they're very dependent on their success of their defense.
And I think they finally figured that out.
Yeah.
I think they finally figured out we don't
have
to throw it.
Why had they not figured out how to get Will Shipley more involved in offense?
I think they're banking on the opposing defense is like they're forcing Clemson to pass the ball, where it's like they're crowding the box and forcing DJ to make those throws. And that, he may not have Will Shipley may not have high rush numbers, but they involve him in the pass game as well.
Yeah. Big victory for Clemson. I think it's going to be a tough game coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Coastal Carolina just continues to barely get on by with these victories. They remain undefeated. But
I like the wording here, Kyle.
28-21 victory for
lackluster performance. I like that.
But it's true, they didn't even score in the second half.
Didn't score in the second half.
How do you have over 400 yards total offense? You only scored in the second half.
I'm not sure what's going on with Coastal. And maybe that's why they're 6-0 and not in the top 25. I mean, this time last year when they were 6-0, they might have been 18, 15. They were in the top 20 at this point last year. And now I think the voters are just like,
well, I think they're hesitant on the smaller conferences, not your traditional Power 5. Because, I mean, you've seen this with multiple SEC teams or ACC or whoever. Some people are ranked when they don't deserve to be ranked.
Gamecocks mess around.
Like, how was LSU ranked?
Yeah,
I
think this week we got votes to be top 25. So yeah, you go and beat A&M. I was really hoping A&M would pull that one out against Alabama.
I'm glad they did.
It could go one of 2 ways. They're either going to come in pissed off or they're going to come in with their heads down.
But are they going to come in?
Nobody. They're on the bye too.
Oh.
But are they going to come in, though? Like, I feel like what you're getting out of a Jimbo Fisher team.
I thought that too, but then they almost beat Bama last week.
But he always plays Bama fast.
Well, that's true.
And they were
but they won.
They did win.
Unlike Kentucky.
Did y'all see that play at the end of the game?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the boy catches the ball, it's still not a touchdown.
Nope.
It's a 2-yard play.
Look that one up.
Yeah.
Pass interference in the end zone.
He would have called it like the 1. He'd have called it like at the 1 or 2 yard line.
You know it's your last play, and that's what you come up with.
Yeah. But
save it for the national. Coastal continues to win, but it like Kyle said, lackluster performance.
Lackluster.
It's nothing that jumps off saying that's a great football team.
And it's against not very good teams that they're taking on. They're barely skating by.
Is Jamie Chadwell kind of doing a Lincoln Riley 2.0 this year where he's like, you know what? trying to coast it. I know I'm going to get a bigger job after this season.
I don't know. But if that's what his plan was, it's not a good idea. Lincoln Riley to do that at Oklahoma is one thing because he's had a track record of being in the playoffs, doing at obviously a bigger school. You can't do that at Coastal and say, I know a bigger job's coming up. I'm just going to skate by this year. He needed to be blowing teams out every week.
I've got a hot take on Oklahoma at the end of the show.
I just wrote me something down on Oklahoma.
We'll see if it's the same thing. Great minds think alike.
Thank our second sponsor, Stephen, before we get rolling.
All right, our second sponsor is Anderson Brothers Bank. I personally bank there. It's a local bank. You can go right in, friendly people. They're all over the place throughout, the PD, Horry County, even on down to Charleston. So if you're looking for a bank, Anderson Brothers Bank is the way to go. All right, let's snake draft this thing. We finished with Coastal. Let's just go ahead and pick them. Coastal will take on Old Dominion this week, another kind of lowly opponent. It's not the trucking company. No.
Old Dominion.
Which you probably could have used Old Dominion this past week for us to put all your stuff on that we had to move out an entire house in 5 hours.
We did it.
We should have had this camera over here, extreme home move out.
I agree with your logic pre-show. You're like, listen, I'm only moving 5 miles. Do I really need to pack everything?
We could have used a whole Old Dominion box for the empty shoe boxes they had. That was for Chris Carmichael.
So I found out the other day. I was talking to Cassidy, and she was like, "Are you not supposed to keep empty shoe boxes?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "My family's always kept empty shoe boxes." I said, "Well, you wait until Stephen that."
No. What do you do with them?
I don't know.
Do you use them for anything?
No,
I'm curious. Where do you keep them all?
We'll have to talk about that later.
Oh man!
CCU takes on Old Dominion. It's at home, 12 p.m. on Saturday. Coastal 12.5 point favorite, over under 56.5.
I think this could be somewhat of a trap game for Coastal. Old Dominion may not be the best team, but they did upset Virginia Tech the first week of the year. Also played Virginia pretty close, so they've done pretty good against ACC opponents. I don't know if that speaks more in terms of Virginia Tech and Virginia as a whole, or Old Dominion just shows up for kind of the big games.
I think this could either be another game like Coastal's had all year, or they could finally, get out of the cage and blow this thing open.
Coastal, but they do not cover.
I'm going to say Coastal covers.
Coastal does not cover.
I'm not touching over and under because Coastal could score 56 on their own, or this could be another one of those 28-14 games or something like that.
I'm gonna go with Jordan. Outside of Georgia State, Coastal really hasn't. They're going to win, but it's like
any reason
it's not.
To think they will cover.
Yeah,
it all depends on if they can get turnovers. I don't think, like you said, I don't know if they got any turnovers this past week, but
they didn't turn the
beginning
ball
of the
over.
season, that's what they were kind of relying on, was getting 3-4 turnovers a game. The last few weeks they haven't done that. If they can take the ball away, they might be able to cover. I think they'll cover.
I've always looked at turnovers in a football game as a gift, not a you got to have it.
Yeah.
It's when you get it, you capitalize on it, but you don't figure that into your game plan. You can't say, all right, third quarter, 12 minutes left, right there, because we're going to pick up a football player. You can't do that. It's a gift, guys.
I think I'm going to take the under, too.
I'm not touching
that one.
Now,
56.5 points?
Their offense is too unpredictable.
That's what I'm saying. Coastal could either score 21 and win the game, or they could score all 56 on their own.
But what's Old Dominion going to score?
Who knows?
We don't know.
That's
what I'm saying. I ain't touching that.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair for Coastal standards.
I'm going with Coastal to cover. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
South Carolina's on a bye week this week, so
I'm
going to give them the victory.
I think we should still spend more time talking about South Carolina in this segment.
Just for Landry on his wedding week.
Compared to Clemson.
His head's going to explode, boys.
South Carolina.
He's wearing that Marshall hat.
South Carolina wins the bye week by getting healthy.
That's what we need.
Beamer said in his press conference on Sunday.
Health as well.
Yep, nothing serious. Guys that were injured are out. Should be back next week.
Yeah, that's gonna be big.
Yep.
Clemson, number 5, got to go to Florida State. What's Florida State's record?
They are. You know what? You can start there.
They're
4-2.
Okay, well, why didn't you have it down here? All right, Florida State.
Nobody else can do their own research on this show.
Nope. Jordan doesn't do research for any shows.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Clemson in the points.
Clemson 4.5. I think that's low.
I think they're giving Florida State too much credit. Yes, they
7:30 ABC is game day. There are they?
No, game day's in Rocky Top.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But Herb Street's covering this game. I'm pretty sure.
It ain't nothing but just a little plane ride away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure CBS is going to be covering Alabama.
Clemson 4.5. Over under 51.5. You know what? Landry's getting married this week. We're gonna be out there in the barn.
Yep. He ain't going to be able to watch the game.
No service.
No service out there.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Well, I got AT&T. We'll have service out there. And I'm going to just keep whispering in his ear, whether it's true or not. Touchdown, Florida State. Out on the first dance.
Don't do that to that man on his wedding day.
Nose in the upset.
I'm going with Florida State, too.
Nose in the upset.
I'm going with
So
Florida
y'all
State
taking
as
the points? Or
yeah.
You taking FSU plus 4.5?
I'm taking a money line. Nose in the upset.
You can't bet money line on this show.
Listen, guys. If you want to
Florida State plus 14.5.
4.5.
Whoa. I don't know about that.
Florida State wins by a field goal at the end.
I think Florida State has improved under Mike Norwell this year, but it's kind of the same thing I said last week. Clemson still heads and tails way better than them.
Yeah.
Vegas knows something.
Yeah, 4.5 is very low.
Vegas knows
It's 4.5 because they're playing in Tallahassee.
But it's the number 5 team in the nation versus an unranked team.
I mean, Florida State, they did lose to NC State. You know, Clemson did beat NC State pretty easily. I know it's in, like I said, it's in Tallahassee, but it's like Clemson's got a ton of experience.
That scares me.
This is a low line.
That scares me. Vegas.
I say Clemson wins this one easily.
So you're saying Clemson covers?
Yes.
No, nose in the upset.
Yeah, Florida State.
Like
we said, South Carolina's off this week. So, all right. Before we jump into our hot takes, national news, whatever comes to mind, we want to give a shout out to our final sponsor of the week, and that is the City of Dillon Golf Course and also Wellness Center.
That's right.
And it's the Muni.
The Muni.
I don't think it's called the Muni anymore. They have a new name, and I wish I had it written down.
It's named after the guy that owned the land. I'm pretty sure it's his wife.
I can't exactly remember.
It's
but
like Victoria Johnson, I believe, Memorial. It sounds like a golf tournament name.
We've been out there a lot and donated a lot of balls to those woods.
That's right. But one good thing about having a golf course in Dillon, guys, there's something to do. It gives you time to get out there if you want to spend it with your wife. You like taking your wife to play golf. I've never ventured that path.
My golf game's not good enough to take a significant other.
Something to do, and you're keeping the money local, man.
Yeah, and also we got a lot of bigger businesses, Purdue, Wyman Gordon, Harbor Freight, and I know this past weekend Purdue had their
the Purdue and the Dillon Community. No, not what is it? The PD Coalition.
Yeah,
that was kind of their golf tournament.
Yeah, they had a golf, and they had people from all over. I know my buddy even came. He lives in North Carolina, and he came down to play in the tournament. I mean, there was people from all over the place. I think he even said New York or Maryland, all over the place.
And you the course looks great. Like it's a small
They're
course.
They're definitely putting money into
There's
it.
a big budget that requires maintaining a golf course and making it look immaculate.
Sure.
Yeah.
For what it is, for what Dillon is, it's a great golf course.
Yeah, I agree. And also the Wellness Center.
Yeah, that was a nice building out there, indoor track, outdoor track that they put in recently, sauna, weights.
Yep.
Go out there and play some
events out
basketball.
there. So also a park. We take our daughter to that park over there all the time. I mean, try to go to the park here in town. Not as quite much to do for little kids, but out there it's perfect. Gated in. It's got the little spongy, soft ground. So if they fall, they don't get hurt. So
that's more for you, Steven, because I'm sure you fall a lot out there.
He talked back. He gets slapped down at me.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into some hot takes. I know y'all have been writing them down over here.
All right.
Jordan,
what I wanted to say.
You go, Jordan. You take the lead.
You got an iPhone. You got an iPhone.
Got an iPhone.
Yeah. You have never once in your life been able to type a message on your iPhone that said Tennessee has beat Bama in football.
I saw that on the internet the other day.
That tickled me. It said, "But you know what you can do? You can say you went to Blockbuster."
They also can't say Tennessee fans can't say they've ordered an Uber after beating Alabama
or send a direct message on Instagram.
Yeah.
that said Tennessee beat Alabama football.
So, do they get to do that this week?
Rocky Top.
I think it depends if Bryce Young is playing. If Bryce Young is not playing, I think Tennessee wins pretty easily.
I think Tennessee.
And can Alabama stop Tennessee's offense?
And there's some nice people up there. No matter how bad.
What?
When you go up there and they beat you, no matter how bad they beat you, there's still some nice people. Or the ones I've always
just said that because that man bought that Butch Jones shirt off of y'all for $100.
That wasn't my Butch Jones shirt. I got mine hanging in the closet. But there was the Butch Jones shirt.
They still should have kept Butch Jones.
For $100.
Still should have kept Butch Jones.
That's gonna be a good game.
Yeah.
Even with Bryce Young, I think it'll still be a good game. If Bryce Young plays, Alabama might come out on top, but I think Tennessee's gonna give them all that they want.
It's gonna be a truer test for Tennessee's defense this week if Bryce Young plays. If Bryce Young, like I said, doesn't play, I think Tennessee wins pretty easily.
I'm taking Rocky Top.
I'm taking. Even though this isn't a pick that's going to be considered, I'm going to take Alabama.
I'm taking Rocky Top.
Nick Saban's never lost to Tennessee.
I'm gonna take
Alabama.
Tennessee. I think they're legit.
Tennessee's a good football team.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on Tennessee just yet.
What y'all think they're going to wear?
This is their first. They're wearing their traditional home jerseys.
The orange and the white?
Yeah.
You got to go traditional in this game.
I don't know, man. The one thing I can't get behind with Tennessee.
I'm not a big fan of
last year we went
crazy
there,
jerseys.
it was a 12 o'clock game, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come out in a blackout.
Yeah.
At noon.
That never works for South Carolina.
I couldn't figure that out. Why are you going to black out at noontime?
Yeah, speaking of that,
I mean,
I know that just one point.
Blackout.
I do not want to do when South Carolina does play next week. They happen as a big game, 7:30 under the lights again. Please do not come out in all black. Just go white, garnet, white.
That's what I said.
That's
big game garnet and win the game.
I'm not a big fan of all these different color combinations. Like South Carolina, I like our white helmet. I like the garnet jersey. I like the white pants. I do like the helmet we wore against South Carolina State.
With the block C?
But I think you switch stuff up on teams you should.
Like that, exactly. When you play South Carolina State, all right, cool, wear the block C. When you play Charlotte, sure, let's do a blackout.
I think y'all are too far down the rabbit hole if y'all think that the color of the jerseys that we wear determines the play on the field.
You know what that's called? Jordan,
superstitious.
My good friend,
superstitious.
I'm very superstitious.
I'm superstitious. I remember this.
I've worn the same outfit the last 5 Sundays, and the Cowboys have won.
Nobody cares about the Cowboys.
Nobody cares about
the Cowboys. You're a guy from Dillon, South Carolina, and a Cowboys.
You don't even have a team.
You're a Cowboys fan.
He's a freaking Washington Commies fan.
That's better than that. At least that's regional.
How?
They're at least in Washington. You're pulling for a team that's America's team.
Exactly.
You might as well just brought in your bandwagon.
You don't even have a team.
Your Red Barrel. Red Barrel wagon.
There would nothing tickle me more in life than if the Cowboys didn't win a game for 100 years.
Well, that ain't going to happen.
This could be a hot topic, even though I currently don't have an NFL team because David Tepper's the worst owner in sports.
So you just gave your fanship back?
All of them, dude. Until he
could not be a Washington fan.
It has nothing to do with the success of. It has nothing to do with the success of the team. That's not my.
You couldn't be a Washington fan either. Their owner's about to go to court. Could be the Supreme Court.
He should be have sold the team by now, Daniel Snyder. But just what David Tepper did with the training facility, nope.
All right, that was your hot take.
I still got another one.
Ooh. Hold on. Here we go. Because y'all both got Oklahoma hot takes.
Right. Yeah. Right, so I'll go this time. I think after watching the Oklahoma-Texas game last week, the Red River rivalry, I think Lincoln Riley knew exactly what he was doing when he left Oklahoma. I think he knew the program was in like a downfall because he did inherit a great football program from Bob Stoops. Okay. And I think he left at the right time. Yes, Venables is a great coach. He's a first-time head coach. But, I mean, he's a defensive guru. Like, you can't tell me a team has fallen off this much with Lincoln Riley leaving. I think Lincoln Riley knew the state of the program Oklahoma was in, and he got out of there quick in a hurry. I think he knew exactly what was going on in that football program, that they weren't as good as they were.
I think they would still be better if Lincoln Riley was there.
Offensively, yes.
I agree with you. My point was, is Venables the guy?
You can't, I think that's
How many points?
It's too early to call that.
How many points?
Like
did
I said,
they
he's
score
coached.
in
He's
the Red
coached
River
6
rivalry?
games. I get it. I get it. I get it.
How
I
many
get
did
it
they
completely.
give
They
up?
were also without their starting quarterback.
700.
They gave up 49 points. It was the largest deficit in the Red River rivalry.
Well,
history.
here's the thing.
But I'm just saying, like, you
itself.
can't write off a coach when he hasn't even coached a full season.
No, you can't give up on him yet. But only because they made a drastic change. They went from offensive-minded, we're just going to outscore you, don't care how many points we give up type of coach to probably don't know I'm not saying you don't know offense. You got to know offense to be a defensive coach. But he's not out there calling the plays like Lincoln Riley was. And you're a defensive guy who came into a program who didn't care about defense.
Yeah.
And he's also trying to figure out how to be a manager,
which
he should have learned because Dabo is one of the best at that. He's the best at being at that type of head coach and managing people and putting people in position that you might not be the best at.
But it's also a learning experience for him. And I heard this, I don't know if it was on a podcast or a TV show, but they said Venables really needs to utilize the transfer portal this offseason to kind of strengthen up their defense. I don't agree with writing them off just yet. I think that's really premature.
They probably can. He's probably.
It's one thing if he was already at the program with Oklahoma.
So
I know
how much time do you give him?
3 years.
No.
3 years.
You just go back to square one when you fire somebody that quickly.
3 years.
Like that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. Like I think Lincoln Riley knew something that the rest of the country doesn't.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid a lot more.
But the thing is, like,
my
thing is, it's like if you see a team that's progressing, like yes, it may be a rebuild. We just don't know. But it's like if you're progressing and consistently getting better, I don't see why you fire him because now it's one thing if they just continue to suck for 3-4 seasons, but if they progressively get better, they get players in that buy into Venables system, at least on defensive side. You give them at least 4 seasons. Because like when you fire them, then you start back from square one. It's like you don't do your program any favors.
I don't think Lincoln Riley thought the program was going down. I think he just wanted to get to the West Coast where he can make more money. Right. Not only football, he can make more money with commercials. There's Hollywood out there. It's easier to recruit kids to come to USC because he pretty much took all of his main players from Oklahoma to USC.
But that goes back to the less restrictive transfer portal.
He's been wanting to get out for years.
But at the same time, a lot of players commit to schools because of coaches. It's rare, especially nowadays.
That's what I'm saying.
Where they commit for the program.
I bet you Oklahoma would still be undefeated right now if Lincoln Riley was there.
I don't agree with you. I do not agree with you. I do, y'all.
Well, he would still have the quarterback there.
Right.
The quarterback wasn't going to transfer. He only transferred because of Lincoln Riley. There were a few of the receivers. I think there was a few other players that followed him out there.
They lost all their offensive targets.
Right. So they would have all those players there with Lincoln Riley, and he would just keep playing the same.
But also
game
think it may not
because it Spencer Rattler.
No, they wouldn't have Spencer
But also
Rattler.
at the same time, Lincoln Riley was kind of running in his success based off the team and recruits that Bob Stoops already had there. And like, yes, Lincoln Riley was the offensive coordinator, but again, it's completely different than when you're a head coach compared to when you're just a coordinator or positions coach.
I'm going to give him 3 years, and Venables will be back to defensive coordinator at Clemson.
Hey, give me that payout. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like,
Oklahoma just ain't going to put up with they're not going to put up with 7 and 5.
They're not going to put up with mediocrity is what you're trying to say.
They got that oil money too in Oklahoma, so they'll pay out them buyouts. They don't care.
I just think it's pointless to keep firing people when they're not winning national championships after 2 seasons.
Well, you say that because you don't have $150 million in the bank.
I'm just saying.
Like, if I had that much money, I'd get out there.
That's enough on this. That was it.
We won 9 games last year. Guess what? We're going to pay you $80 million. Go bye-bye. We'll get some yin-yang in there. Doesn't have a clue. And guess what? If he don't work, we'll fire him 2 years later. We'll just keep doing it. It's just a continuous circle.
I don't care. That's their program.
What
they do it.
Is there anything?
You gonna say fire Beamer after 3 years if we're not winning SEC championships?
No, that's a completely different situation.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Oklahoma was consistently in the Big 12. They've been in the playoffs. South Carolina hasn't been there in years. So you have to give a coach like that time to build. You can't say, all right, we're taking a coach from a national championship program and putting them into a national championship program, and he just fails.
But also lost a ton of offensive talent. Their defense their defense was never really good. So it's like,
But at Oklahoma, they can rebuild way faster than South Carolina. They're going to get recruits solely on their name and solely on the amount of money, especially with the NIL deals that they can give out now.
Well,
he should be able to rebuild faster
these days
than Beamer should be able to build.
These days, these traditional powerhouses.
That's kind of where I was going and what I wanted to say, but y'all have been arguing a little bit heated.
Shocker, me and Steven arguing.
That I really couldn't get a word in, so I just drew me 3 lines on the paper and said I'm done with it.
But last point, these days of these traditional powerhouses just dominating recruiting is over. Like, yeah, they're still going to get their main people, but the day of, like, you look at the top running back in high school last year, he's at Jackson State.
Yeah, that was all money.
But I'm just saying, like, that's all that, like, what if, like, all these players care about is their name and image, which they should be paid off that. But it's like the days of, like, Clemson getting all these top players is over. Look at Miami. They're still getting them, but it's like they're not getting the pick of the litter.
Anybody knows how to pay players, it's Miami.
Yeah.
They're doing it, and they're getting them.
But that running back that went to Jackson State, he's going to be at Georgia Tech next year with Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders ain't going to be there. Oh, and Matt Rule will be coaching a major college football program next year.
Hot take.
Who's it going to be? It'll probably be Oklahoma.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Okay.
Jordan, you got anything else?
Nope. I told you I drew my 3 lines. I'm done.
No, I want to hear it.
No, that was it. That was it.
No, his take was what I ended up saying. UNC Duke.
I think
just
Duke wins.
Quick pick.
UNC Duke?
Yeah. I don't know nothing about him. Quick pick.
If we play in basketball, I'm taking Duke.
Duke's improved this year.
If we play in football, I'm taking Duke.
I'm taking – gosh. Duke's improved a lot this year in football.
I'm going to take North Carolina.
Okay, good.
They got the number 1 quarterback in the ACC right now.
Name me 3 players.
What's the quarterback's name? Kyle knows all the players.
Something May.
Yeah.
Luke May. No, that's the basketball player. Drake May.
Drake May. He's the number 1 quarterback in the ACC.
He also – Landry might like the May kid because he talked about all the kids that can't get into North Carolina go to NC State. So he's throwing shade at NC State. So Landry might like him.
Okay, so we're going to do these other ones, Penn State, Michigan?
No, I just kind of put that in there if you talk whatever you want to talk about.
But Penn State does beat Michigan this week.
Yep. It's at Michigan. It's at the Big House.
Yeah,
Penn State beats Michigan. Penn State, Tennessee, Mississippi State over Kentucky, and I'm taking USC. I ain't taking Utah. I done told you I ain't taking Utah. They'll let Jack Bentley play quarterback at Utah. I'll never pick him in nothing.
Just so we're all square, like those picks won't count towards our records for next week.
He don't want people calling him out when he gets them wrong. And just to recap, thanks to our sponsors, Dillon Tire, Anderson Brothers Bank, and then the City of Dillon Golf Course and Wellness Center. You know what? Just next week we're gonna learn that name for the golf course and give it a shout out again.
Vivian M. Johnson, maybe.
Congratulations to Landry.
Yep.
On getting married this weekend.
Everybody in the comments section give Landry some well wishes.
Yep.
Or a hard time.
Yeah. He is a Clemson fan.
He probably won't be here next week either.
Nope.
We'll be honeymooning it.
Yep. So congratulations, Landry.
The show is better without him, I think.
Where are they going? They're going
off West Yellen.
Yeah.
Where are they going on honeymoon? West Africa?
I hope they're going somewhere where it's I hope they go somewhere where it's sunny and he comes back burnt.
Woo! He's going to be a different shade of red.
Okay. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll be back next week.
Cut it off.